It's 90 days in to the quarter. All right, so I guess we're already past the quarter. That's why I spent the last couple of days. I've got three coaches. I've got a mindset coach, I've got an accountability coach, and I got a business coach. And we've been talking about the first quarter of 2026. And you know what? I thought that's probably a good idea to talk to you guys about. And why? Well, quarter is important because we made those. How many made those New Year's resolutions and you already forgot about them? You need to evaluate where you're at. And I'm all about making your annual goals. Hell, I like 5-year goals. Now, both of those the fact is you're going to change over time. Now, more importantly, that's why we want to look at our 90-day goals. And I even take it one step further, and I'm not going to take credit for this, but my business coach, Roderick, he likes to break them down into 6-week goals. Why 6 weeks? Because it's half your 90 days. Then you evaluate where you're at and keep going. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the problem with annual goals. Too far away. They're easy to ignore. It's easy to say, well, procrastination is probably the biggest problem with annual goals. And hell, 5-year goals, they're great too, and they're wonderful to think about, but things change. I've went back to my goals, and I do this annually. I look at my 5-year goals, and actually they're always changing. It's a rolling 5 years. And your priorities change, your lifestyle changes, your hopefully your income changes for the best. Those things, all change, but we got to look at that. Breaking it down into 90 days makes it simpler. It's 3 months. It's, the quarter of the year, and you can evaluate that. So we talk about how you eat an elephant. You ever heard that? One bite at a time. And that's right. So this might sound a little redneckish, but it's like butchering beef and cattle and chickens. You fill that freezer up. And every day you go to the freezer and get a little piece out. And when you fill that freezer up, you think, gosh, damn, you're proud of it. You got a lot of meat in that freezer. But have a barbecue that weekend. Come look at it on Monday and a little bit smaller. And you got to evaluate. And come a year and up now, and the freezer is empty. You got to refill it back up again. That's kind of the same concept here. And I know I'm kind of a redneck, but I'm going to tell you what, if you never had butchered homegrown beef and pig and pork, or should be pig and pork are the same thing. Chicken, you ain't lived, but that's just a side note. Let's go back to what we're talking about. Evaluating your goals helps you catch problems in advance. It helps make adjustments. One of the first things I learned in college was, you always plan, you do strategic planning, you implement, you review, and then you go back to strategic planning. It's like a damn vicious circle. But the longer you do that, the harder it is to make those changes. So do them more sooner than later. So Roger and I, we were talking the other day about my plans, my goals, and I have an annual roadmap, we call it. But it's time to look at where I'm at with this. And I want you to do the same thing with your 6-week goals for your 90 days. So you're evaluating the 6-week end. And sometimes we get so sidetracked and we forget where we've been and what we've actually got done. So the first thing we want to do is you want to look back and say, what are you proud of? What have I gotten done the last 6 weeks? So what have you gotten done since January? Did you do the things? Have you lost the weight you're going to lose? Whatever it is, are you eating better? Are you making as much money? Are you still wearing that hard hat and having passed it on to somebody else and being that CEO? But write down what you're proud of. Write down what you're excited about. I think that's a good one too, because excitement keeps you going, keeps that motivation going. What do you plan on accomplishing the next 6 weeks? Because now remember, you're halfway through your 90 days. What we're going to do in the next 6 weeks to get that 90-day goal going. One of the things I used to do, and I believe this is actually Chris's add on. I want you to reward yourself. When I first started out and I was building spec houses, and then I'd sell them, I'd always tell myself, if I sell this house, I'm going to buy me a gun. And I got to think back on shopping at Bass Pro. And I'm telling you what, it just motivated me. Now I've gotten plenty of guns, and the best part is I've grown my company, so my rewards have gotten bigger than just guns. But we can talk about that some other time. But reward yourself. Now I mentioned earlier I've got coaches, and I got a mindset coach. So not only do I want you to talk about rewarding yourself, I want you to know what it looks like and what it feels like to reach that goal. What does it feel like? So What's the advantage of doing that? Well, if you do that, it programs your brain. Programs your brain to think and look for opportunities. Right now, I'm contemplating buying a Kubota SVL 75-3. And what's that? That's a skid loader. It's a very expensive skid loader. Well, expensive to me. It's right in the middle, 75 horses. And, ooh, I want one. But the point being is, when you focus your mind on that, guess what I've been looking and seeing all the time? I've been seeing people driving 75 horse skid loaders, SVL 3s actually. And saw one the other day. And I pulled in and asked the guy, I said, hey, how do you like that machine? The point being was that once you set your mind to visualize and think about things, your mind sees those opportunities. Just think about when you buy a car and you don't think it's out there, and then all of a sudden you start seeing those cars you just bought. What else does visualization do? Visualization, for seeing what you want, like Porky Pig, I just reworded it. Seeing what you want is you increase your beliefs and you build confidence. Now, I talk a lot about action. I talk about me being the old, bull in the china closet, jumping in with 2 feet and taking on the consequences. Well, you got to have that confidence to do that. If you don't, you just stand still. I don't want you spinning your wheels. I want you moving forward, taking action so you can come across those problems and overcome them. But you never come across those problems, you never get started. We need that confidence to take that action. And we talk about the opportunity. Well, I had to have some confidence the other day. I have a friend who has a friend who's an investor. She has plenty of funds to invest. And I was getting back in my own feelings. I'm thinking, damn, I'd like to talk to her. But why would she want to talk to me? What do I have to offer? Finally, I had to get up and say, Chris, you got to take a chance. So I built my confidence, realized that, I know one damn good thing. If I never asked, I'd never know. And she wouldn't have the opportunity to say yes or no if I never asked anyway. So I reached out to my friend. I said, hey, you're talking to so-and-so, yeah. And I said, you think that they'd be interested in an opportunity like this? And I give an example. And he says, I think they would. Matter of fact, our meal we had was all about that conversation. A week later, I met with that investor. Now, 2 weeks later, today, well, actually yesterday, I got the call and they're wanting to move forward. I visualized what I had in mind, made the confidence to ask, accepting the fact that they might say no. But more importantly, what if they said yes? And they did. Now, visualizing also drives better decision making in those daily actions. You got end results and you make good decisions because you're always thinking, how is that going to affect my goal? Every decision should be based on that question first. Is this going to get me closer to the goal I've just set? And if we're setting shorter goals, it makes it a whole lot faster, a lot quicker to make those happen. And you can evaluate if you made those goals or not within those 90 days. So just keep that all in mind. All these goals, these looking back in 6 months, 6 weeks, 90 days, the visualization, writing down those things, it helps build momentum. I think I talked about before, you're spinning your wheels. You got to get started first. Once you get started, then everything comes a lot easier. I'm going to probably ask a few people, and probably none of them. Everybody probably these days have power steering. Power steering is those things on the cars, it helps you turn the wheel. Hell, you can turn the wheel with one finger back and forth. Well, I grew up in a day that some vehicles didn't have power steering. Matter of fact, my old side-by-side don't have power steering. How do you make steering easier when you don't have a power steering pump? You get it to moving. If you realize if you're moving, that steering wheel's a lot easier. But if you're sitting still with help from that power steering pump, that was a booger to turn back and forth. And I tell my kids when they're riding, my grandkids, they get on there and they always want, Poppy, I want to drive. Hell, okay, you drive, but I'm operating the pedals. Because Lord have mercy, I had one time where it don't matter. Then I hurt myself. But they thought it was funny as hell but my granddaughter thought it was funny. Anyway, the point being is, She struggles turning that steering wheel. But if I give it a little gas, oh, that makes it so much easier to turn that steering wheel. That's the whole point here. Get to moving, get to visualizing, and make it all happen. Lastly, all this we're talking about helps you become that CEO we've been talking about. That's why I'm asking you all about this. That's how we're talking about it. Getting out of that hard hat and becoming that CEO of your business, because it's more important. It's more important for you to grow your company. Why is it more important? Because it's going to actually make you feel better, make your family feel better. It gives your people confidence on your team that you're leading, and they have confidence now too, that they don't have to worry about their security. If you look at all them things, took some psychology in college, and one of the things that we all, as humans, we want to have security. Security is probably one of the most important things. I mean, if you cover that, next things become a whole lot easier. Well, give your people security. Give yourself security by managing your company and being that leader. So let's just sum this all up about the 90-day review. You want to look at what worked. Look at that 6 weeks. What's worked the last 6 weeks? You want to look at what didn't work. What can be better? What wins did you make? And what can you improve upon? At first, I wrote the notes that says, where do you lose? We don't lose. It's all making that lemons out of lemonade. What can you do to improve? That's how you need to look at it. That's kind of my Terry, she's my coach on my mindset. It's all about how you say it and what you say. But your mind's listening to yourself. And sometimes I don't even talk out loud to listen to myself. You know what I'm saying, that inner voice. But basically, how can you improve? And what's the last thing you need to do? The last thing you need to do is what you're going to do. What's that one focus area you're going to be for the next 90 days? What's that next goal for the next 90 days? And then you set little goals in between that. All right, what has to happen in the next 6 weeks so I can get that 90-day goal? You guys think about that. I like writing it down myself. Hell, matter of fact, I've even got to a point where I'm talking to AI. It's kind of funny because I'll talk inside the speaker here, and my team looking at, you talking to me? No, I'm talking here to old Claude and Grok, and we got the one on Google. Anyway, I'm talking to them all. But matter of fact, it's got to a point where they're talking back to me, so it's almost scary. But that's a whole other day. But if you guys like what you heard today and want to talk about goals and hear about how to set goals and where you need to be with those goals, hit that like and subscribe button. Tune in, hit the notifications. You'll get notified if I'm going to be on another time for next Tuesday. This is Chris G, Hard Hat CEO,